Welcome a dystopian world where the residents live in a strict hierarchy, with the upper levels enjoying relative comfort while the lower levels endure harsh conditions. In this massive underground bunker called the Silo, a community thrives without knowing their history, as records were supposedly destroyed 140 years earlier during a failed uprising. Sheriff Holston Becker tells Deputy Sam Mines that he wants to go out. 3 years earlier, Holston and his wife Allison received permission from her doctor to remove her birth control implant, but they are unable to conceive. During this time, Allison learns subversive beliefs about the silo from Gloria Hildebrandt, a fertility expert and helps it expert George Wilkins explore a forbidden hard drive dating from before the rebellion. Allison tells a skeptical Holston that those in power are lying to them and that the view on silo screens of a dead outside world is fake. She offers as evidence her birth control implant that was still implanted and that she removed herself. Allison declares that she wants to go out. The mere utterance of these words is strictly forbidden, and the inevitable punishment is permanent fulfillment of that desire. Allison promises to clean the silo's external camera if the outside is beautiful. Following the silo's pact, Allison is dressed in an environmental suit and exits on her one-way journey. Silo residents watch Allison clean the camera and then collapse, seemingly dead. 2 years later, Holston investigates George's death and meets Juliet Nichols, an engineer who claims he was murdered. Holston learns from Juliet that George, her lover, collected forbidden historical relics. Upon learning that George and Allison worked together, Holston agrees to investigate and promises to send Juliet a signal when he finds something. A few months later, Holston leaves the silo and is shocked to see that the outside is lush and beautiful like Allison claimed. He cleans the camera, takes off his helmet, and on camera appears to crawl to Allison's body before dying. Mayor Ruth Johns learns that Holston left behind a statement nominating Juliet to be his replacement as sheriff. Juliet knows that George was looking for a door and tries to retrace his steps in the watery dig space underneath the silo. Mayor Johns and Deputy Sam descend 144 levels to meet Juliet. Along the way, Johns meets Juliet's estranged father, Dr. Pete Nichols, and Juliet's engineer friend, Martha Walker, for opinions of Juliet's character. Despite the disapproval of Judge Meadows, head of judicial, and Bernard Holland, head of it, Johns offers Juliet the role of sheriff. Juliet declines but changes her mind when she's given Holston's badge, which has the word truth carved on the back. Juliet requests that Johns allow the main generator to be switched off for repairs, which has never been done. At shutdown, the silo screens briefly show a healthy green view of the outside, although no one seems to notice this. With difficulty, the mechanical team fixes the main generator. Before leaving for her new job, Juliet asks Walker to study a camera she found among George's relics. Marnes and Johns confess their love for each other, before Johns collapses with blood in her mouth. Ruth Johns is dead. Marnes believes she was poisoned and that he was the real target because they drank from each other's water flasks. Bernard, as mayor pro tem, swears Juliet in as the new sheriff. Juliet asks Marnes to help her investigate George's death. In return for her helping him investigate Johns' death, Robert Sims, of Judicial, tells Marnes that Judge Meadows is ready to remove Juliet as sheriff, but Marnes tells him to let Juliet quit on her own. Later, Marnes is attacked in his apartment. Juliet meets Lucas, a resident who spends late nights in the cafeteria. Juliet finds Holston's file on George, but cannot find George's hard drive that Holston confiscated. In a flashback, Juliet leaves home at 13 after the deaths of her mother, Hannah, and younger brother, Jacob. Sam Marnes is found dead. Paul Billings, Judicial's original choice for sheriff, is made Juliet's chief deputy. Sandy, who works in the sheriff's office, tells Juliet to find Marnes' killer before Judicial picks a scapegoat. Juliet discovers that Doug Trumbull, who works for Judicial, planted evidence to frame resident Patrick Kennedy for Marnes' murder. Sims tells Doug that his father was supposedly a janitor, but actually had a secret job that was crucial to the silo's survival. Sims kills Doug before he can be arrested, and Doug is posthumously blamed for Marnes and Johns' murders. Juliet learns that Lucas has been studying the cafeteria's display screens at night to observe the movement of the lights in the sky, silo residents being ignorant that these lights are stars. Walker shows Juliet that the camcorder's technology is more advanced than what is permitted in the silo. Juliet retrieves one of George's relics in the hopes of reopening the investigation into his death. Juliet arranges for the relic to be found in Doug's apartment and uses it as an excuse to track down supposed relic dealer Regina Jackson, who turns out to be George's previous lover who bought relics for him. Sims learns about George's connection to the relic and formally confronts Juliet. Bernard accepts Juliet's claim that she didn't plant the relic, but he orders her to stop investigating Doug's motives for murdering Johns and Marnes. Juliet and Billings argue over her difficulty in trusting him, and she reveals that she knows he has the syndrome, a medical condition that should disqualify him from being a deputy. Regina tells Juliet that she didn't report George's hard drive to judicial, but she did tell the man who knows everything about it after he threatened her loved ones. Regina gives Juliet a cherished relic she received from George, a children's travel book dating from before the silo. While Juliet browses the book in her apartment, she is watched by a surveillance team that has numerous cameras all over the silo, with equipment much more advanced than the rest of the silo. Sims is part of the surveillance team and monitors Juliet's movements via the cameras. Juliet seeks out Gloria, who is being drugged on Meadows' order. Despite Juliet's offer to resign as sheriff, Meadows says she can't lift the order. Billings confronts Juliet when she neglects her duties. She tells him about her investigation into George's murder, and he decides to cover for her. Lucas tries to kiss Juliet, but she rebuffs him. Bernard tells Juliet that he fears Meadows will move against them and encourages her to find a way to control Meadows. With her father's help, Juliet is able to question Gloria and learns that she is part of the Flamekeepers, a secret group dedicated to remembering the past, whose members are being systematically killed. Juliet's mother befriended Flamekeepers, but Juliet's father obeyed orders to prevent them from having children. Juliet realizes that surveillance cameras are behind the silo's wall mirrors and retrieves George's hard drive from where Holston hid it in Gloria's room. Sims raiders arrive at Gloria's room to apprehend Juliet, who isn't there. Judicial searches the sheriff's office for the hard drive, but cannot find it. Juliet retaliates by using Billings' knowledge of the pact to temporarily arrest Sims. While Sims is in custody, Juliet searches his office and finds files on Hannah, Walker, and Shirley Campbell. Hannah's file confirms that judicial surveillance cameras are how they knew that Hannah had built an illegal multi-lens magnifier. Hannah and Juliet had believed that Pete told judicial. Juliet reconciles with Pete, and he tells her that Hannah's subversive behavior and suicide were a response to Jacob's death, which Hannah believed the magnifier technology could have prevented. Juliet is unable to access the hard drive's content. Lucas is too afraid to help, and judicial's checkpoints prevent her from reaching Walker. Bernard finds Juliet and reveals himself to be the true person in charge of the silo and responsible for John's and Marne's deaths. Bernard and Sims arrest Juliet, take the hard drive, and fraudulently claim that Juliet has asked to go outside. Juliet jumps off the silo's central stairs to escape with the hard drive. Juliet escapes and evades judicial's cameras. Billings investigates Juliet's apartment and finds the children's travel book. He keeps one page but burns the rest. Juliet breaks into Sims' apartment and uses his computer to access the hard drive, on which she finds a video message George made for her. Bernard arrests Lucas and learns the hard drive's serial number, which he uses to find Juliet's location. Sims and his raiders rush to the apartment, but Sims' wife allows her to escape. Juliet gets Patrick's help with Danny and its contact to access the hard drive. She watches the rest of George's video, in which he tells her that he loves her and that she needs to find the door underneath the silo. Following George's advice, Juliet, Patrick, and Danny watch a video from a past cleaning, which shows a lush green landscape with birds flying outside the silo. Juliet has Danny broadcast the outside footage to the silo, but the broadcast is quickly shut down by Bernard. Billings is questioned by Sims on his condition, and Billings later tells his wife that they are making an exception so he can be sheriff. Juliet escapes to Mechanical, where she talks to Walker before being arrested. Bernard offers Juliet a deal if she will go out willingly. He will tell her what happened to George and ensure that Mechanical will not be punished. Bernard shows Juliet footage of George jumping off the stairs to avoid interrogation. Bernard destroys the hard drive but later recovers the disk, after Juliet mentions a door underneath the silo. Bernard sentences Lucas to the mines. Juliet goes outside and her helmet's display shows the same video footage of a lush landscape from the previous cleaning. She realizes the deception, discovering that the reality is the desolate view on the silo screens. Because Walker has arranged for the heat tape on Juliet's suit to be of exceptional quality, Instead of dying, Juliet climbs out of the crater that surrounds the silo and goes out of view of its residents. She sees dozens of similar craters, each with a silo and a ruined city on the horizon. That's a wrap on our recap of Silo Season 1. What did you think of this mind-bending series? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more recaps and reviews. See you next time.